All right, here we go. So it's always a challenge with the live stream. Um, Sometimes you are underprepared, sometimes you are overprepared. I was trying to be super prepared for the next week, so I scheduled another one, and then when I tried to go live with this one, there was a slight hiccup. So let me just double check that this is actually going live here, and we're looking good. All right, cool. So welcome back, everyone. It's good to see you. So why don't you just say your name and where you're dialing in from, and then we can get started. And I thought for today, we should do a little experiment because, that is, I want to learn as well. So I'm trying to get better at the whole streaming thing. And as you can tell, I still have a bunch of things to learn. So, but I wanted to try to do a poll. So let's do a poll. And if this works, yeah, it shows up. Nice. So this poll is about if you already use AI in your app. And the idea is, do you use AI in your code? So it's not about do you use AI to write your code, but do you use AI in your application? So yeah, just try and use this UI. I've tried it myself a couple of times in my tests, so hopefully this works. And then a couple of minutes in, or maybe after the first maybe 20 minutes, we'll have a look at the results. Okay, so let me move this to the side, and then let's see what's happening on the stream. Okay, so this is looking good. I can see some of the comments coming in, and I think you have a little bit of lag, but that's all right. So with that out of the way, let's jump into the code, and let me just double check that this compiles. Because that was something that I had to fix as well. Okay, this is looking good. Okay, let's go over here, and then I will probably have to hide the chat for a moment. Okay, cool. So today I want to look at using Gemini, which is Google's large language model, to summarize stuff that people store in our Second Brain application. So if you recall, we have this Second Brain application that people can use to store stuff and to collect articles. And let me just start this again so we can have a look at the application. So here we go. And in a short moment, we should see the application coming up. Let's have a look at the debugger. Wow, this window is very small. Okay, so booting up the simulator always takes a little while. Here we go. All right, so here is the application, and I've stored a couple of articles into the application so that the user can read them later. And the idea is that they can either take notes themselves, like, oh, this is an article I wrote myself, or they can have the AI summarize this entire article here. And if you've watched Firebase Demo Day, then you might have seen this video using Vertex AI and Firebase to securely call Gemini from an Android app. And there is another one about calling Gemini from an iOS app. So if you haven't had the time to watch them yet, I encourage you to do so. The whole idea of Firebase Demo Day is to demonstrate how to use all sorts of Firebase tools and technologies together with all our new AI stuff in order to build a travel planning application that allows the user to specify where they want to go using natural language, and then this application suggests a destination or a travel plan of sorts. So in this video here, Morgan, who's a colleague of mine on the Firebase DevRel team, who also works closely with the iOS SDK team, demonstrates how to use Gemini to generate descriptions for images. So the idea is that people who want to rent out their place, for example, a hotel, or people who own an Airbnb want to upload images of their place and then have an AI generate a good description for that. Because, let's be honest, writing a description for a place, and writing a good one, that is difficult. So why not use an AI? And so in this video, Morgan walks through how to do that. So that is one thing, and I want to use the same technology in our application here. Another thing that I also wanted to show you is the Firebase After Hours live stream. So that is something that I do together with Noe, who is another colleague of mine. And in one of the recent ones, we used the Vertex AI and Firebase SDK to build a space adventure, a text-based space adventure. And that's quite fun as well. So after this stream, if you still have time, I encourage you watching this. It's good fun. We had a lot of fun building this, and the result is pretty amazing. Okay, so before we jump in, I had a couple of things to follow up on, because I know that you people always go in and you leave comments, which is really great. So thanks for doing that. So we had a couple of comments from Clemens and from Filmmaniac, so let's look at them. So let's start with this one here. So Clemens asks, what's the motivation for having a URL as well as meta URL in the artifact metadata? So let's go into the code and find that place. So I think this is in the metadata service. Okay, so here we have the artifact metadata, which has a URL field, and it also has a meta URL field. And if you remember, we use this artifact metadata to go off and download the Open Graph metadata for an article or for the website that the user stores in their knowledge base application. And we retrieve all sorts of metadata, such as the title, the author, the site name, and also the meta URL. So I don't know if you ever heard about canonical URLs. And canonical URLs are why we might want to store the URL and the meta URL. So a canonical URL basically says, well, this page here, this HTML page that you're looking at, this also has a different URL. And using the canonical URL, you can specify which one of those URLs is the one that's actually the source of truth. Why might you want to do this? So for example, if you publish on your own blog and also on Medium, for example, then you want to use a canonical URL. So if you publish your blog post on your own blog, and then the same text also as a Medium article, then in the Medium article you want to say, well, you know what? The real source of truth for this article is over there on this other website, because that is where I want to send the traffic, right? Because many people just use Medium as kind of like an extra advertisement, or to drive traffic to their original blog. And this is why we might want to use both the URL and the meta URL to know, okay, so the user pasted this URL, but the actual source of truth is this other URL, so we might want to download that. So it's just something that might come in useful in the long run. We're not currently using it, but we might in the future. Cool. So that's on this one. And then the other question that Clem's asked is, do you know when we will see Swift 6 language mode supported in the Firebase SDK? And the answer to that is we're currently working on it, and we're doing it piece by piece. And if you go to the GitHub repository, you will see a bunch of pull requests coming in from the team and being merged as we go from version to version. So Firebase releases new versions of the SDK every couple of weeks, and it'll take a while, but we will get there eventually. So just follow along, and then at one point we will have full Swift 6 compatibility. All right, so and then the final thing is something that Phil Maniac mentioned. At timestamp 31 minutes 28 seconds. You put the view in an extension, and then it might be better to let the extension implement a view protocol and not the struct itself. So I think this is the moment, yeah. And let me go into the code so I can show you. And actually, so it's the add artifact view. Add artifact dialog. So hopefully I haven't changed it yet. Yeah, I haven't. Okay. So you might remember that I'm using this. Basically, what we're doing is we have the struct for the view, and in the struct we keep all the state. For example, the dismiss environment object, or the service here, and our artifact, and also all the methods. And then what I did is I use an extension on that struct to host my body, the body of the view, to just keep it separate. And what Phil Maniac said was, well, actually, it might be better to say, well, everything that is in this struct here is not really the view, but, just embellishment for the view. So why not, take this conformance here and put it on the extension. And this actually works. So let's just compile again, and this should work just fine. Yeah, so no compile errors. So you can do either. And I think the main reason why I did it the other way around is I think it's just easier to type, or to wrangle the code. But I agree that this is a better choice. All right, so these were the things that I wanted to go through. Let's have a look at the chat. So folks, if you can, try using the, oh wow. So let's see, I try to understand this UI for the poll. So I'm going to answer myself if that works. Well, I can't. Okay. All right. Let me just reload, and then, okay. So pretty much everybody said no, but we only have one vote. So if you haven't voted yet, go ahead and cast your vote. Also, I only see two people. So hey, Lars and Jesus. I hope I didn't butcher your name there. If you haven't, cast your vote. Right. So what we need to do in order to implement this feature are a bunch of things. So the first thing that we need to do is set up our UI. So let's go and take a look at how it looks at the moment. So we have this dialog here, and inside this dialog, I want to have another button which sits right here and allows the user to press a magic wand button and generate a description. So let's start by doing that. So we have the notes editor here, and let me bring back the chat so people can see. Okay, and I think you need to type something into the chat for it to show up again. All right, so let's get our preview. And here in our notes editor, I want to have another toolbar item. So I'm just going to make a copy of this one here. And then instead of a text, I want to use an image. System name, and let's see. Magic, no, nice, magic mouse. Wand, that is it. Okay. Okay. Wand and stars, I think. Yeah, this looks nice. Let's take that one. Okay. So, and as you can see, it is in the wrong place. So we need to put it into the right place, and .confirmation action is not the right place. So let's just say top bar leading. That should probably do it. Right. Okay. Okay, so now we have our button here, and then we need to run an action, and it's not dismiss. So let's do summarize, and we don't have a summarize function yet, so we'll just implement it. And you can see that here I already followed the advice that Philmaniac suggested. So put the view conformance on the extension instead of the struct. So func summarize, and now the compiler should be gone. Great. And what I want to do is, so we have this node, which is a string, and I want to replace the node. So for now, what we can do is we can just maybe uppercase the node. So let's say node equals node dot uppercased. So let's try this. Okay, great. So this works. All right. But this is not a summary. Instead, we need to call Gemini somehow. So, and I told you that we want to call Gemini, and now if you look around how you can call Gemini, you might, let's use our search engine and see how this can work. So how to call Gemini from Swift. Okay, let's see. So Gemini Developer API, and here is a quick start. So you might end up here. So this looks not too bad. I mean, this is about Python, Node.js, REST, and Go. So let's maybe see if we can find something about iOS. It doesn't look like. Maybe let's see the overview. This is just for the server APIs. Okay, well, maybe let me try again. Gemini, Google AI Studio. let's go here. Okay. So let's assume that we somehow found out that we can use Google AI Studio to work with Gemini. And let's assume that we wanted to summarize an article. So I'm just going to copy a bunch of texts like this. And then I'm going to go in here and then let me just say, summarize the following text for me. And then I'm going to paste it and I will run this. And now I get a summary which says the author is building an app to collect, read, and curate articles for a newsletter incorporating AI features. Okay, so this is actually the introduction to this article, and I do mention that. So this is okay. But maybe we can see if what else we can do here. So we can play around with the model parameters. We can choose different types of models. Currently, we're using Gemini 1.5 Flash. We can change the temperature, which will determine, how creative the model is in its responses, and a bunch of other things. So that's not too bad. So let's see if we can get some code here. And up here, we see this Get Code button. And it says, well, you can use Swift code. And that was actually what I was looking for, right? So here it says you can import the Google Generative AI package. And then here you have your model configuration. And then it says something about an API key. And that should give us pause, because it says don't check your API key into source control. And it tries to read the API key from the environment. And you might have heard that people who have used AI in their application and who've used any of the models out there and who put their API key into the mobile application have run into a problem. And that is their API key got extracted from their application, and then other people went ahead and used their API key to use the service without paying for it. And the poor person who was the owner of the API key had to pay for it. So that is bad for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, you don't want to pay for something that somebody else is using, that is a pretty bad experience. You wake up in the morning and then your credit card provider says, well, congratulations, you now have a bill of a couple hundred or maybe even a couple of $1,000 that you have to pay. So that is a pretty nasty surprise. And then the other thing is you have to replace that API key and roll out your application again. So it's a lot of stress. And then who knows what happens if somebody steals that new API key again. So, and because of that, it is not a good idea to put your API key for a service like a large language model into your application. So what can we do? We can use the Vertex AI in Firebase SDK. And let's go to our project. So here we are. This is our backend or Firebase project for the application that we're working on. And you will see that this has a new item here in the navigation bar, which says build with Gemini. So here we have a couple of options, and one of them is Vertex AI in Firebase. I know the name might not be super intuitive, but that is the way to call Gemini in a secure way from your Firebase application. And the way it works is you don't have to use any API key, because we will use server-side credentials to authenticate from your Firebase backend project to the model. So no API key that can be stolen whatsoever. And on top of that, if you use AppCheck to protect the communication between your client application and the backend, it's even more secure. Cool. So let's see what we can do here to get started. So let's click on Get Started. And then it says upgrade your billing plan. I already did that. So I'm on the Blaze pay-as-you-go plan for my backend project here, and then I can just go ahead and enable the required APIs. So this will enable the Gemini and Vertex APIs for me in my project. And the next step is to add the Vertex AI SDK excuse me, for Firebase. So, and here it says, here are the instructions. So let's click here, and then we get our documentation. So first things first, it says you need to add the Firebase SDK to your application. We already did that, so we don't have to do this again. That's great. But we have to make sure that we import the Firebase Vertex AI library in our application. So let's go into our app here. And then let me quickly check my target. And I might already have done this. Yeah, I did. So let's just pretend that I hadn't done this before. So it would look like this. And that's the same for adding any other part of the Firebase SDK, right? So for example, if you want to use cloud storage, then instead of having to go and say, well, okay, let me just add the Firebase SDK again using this dialog and choose the libraries that I want to use, what you do instead is you go to your target and then you find your frameworks, libraries, and embedded content section where you can see which libraries you already use. So in our case, we use the Firebase Firestore library from the Firebase SDK and nothing else. So all the other things are other libraries and packages that we used. So let me go ahead and search for the Vertex library. And here it is, Firebase Vertex AI. And I'm going to add this. And now I can use this in my code. Cool. So let's take a look at the documentation again. So it says select the library, and then we need to import that, right? So what I want to do is I want to build another service that we can use to encapsulate everything that has to do with Vertex. So I'm going to create a service that is similar to this metadata service. So I'm just going to be a lazy person and I'll copy a lot of that, and then I create a new file from template. It is a new Swift file, and it is the summarizer service.swift. Okay, let's paste this, and then I'll have to change the name, summarizer, and then put this here. Okay. So this is the skeleton for our service. Let me also import observation. Okay. Cannot find logger. Logger is in the OS package. Import OS like this. Great. Cool. And then we need a new function that can perform the summarization. So yeah, this suggestion looks good. Let's use that. And also let's log something. And for now, it's just going to return the input. And so that we can see that we actually call this, let's just do lowercase, right? So in our UI, we did uppercase. So now let's do lowercase to see that something is happening, that we're actually using our service. So let's first hook up the service to our application, and I'm going to go into the root of my application, and here I have my metadata service, and now let's register the summarizer service, and I need to inject it into the environment dot environment summarizer service. Perfect. So this is actually useful. Okay, so now it is injected into my article list screen, and we can pick it up in our nodes editor. So let's go here, and then in the nodes editor, I want to use this, so I can do .environment, and then summarizer service.self to tell it, yeah, I want to fetch this from the environment, and I'll call it summarizer service. And then inside here, instead of doing node.uppercase, I'll call let summary equals summarizer service summary, and I'll pass in the node. Summary.joint. Nope, we'll do it differently. So I do want to keep what's in the node, but differently. So let's do it this way. Node equals node plus summary, like this. We could probably even do node plus equals, like this. It's mostly a matter of taste. I know that, it might have a performance implication, but not really, because we're not doing this in a loop. So, whatever floats your boat. I like this. Cool. So let's try this. And here's a question for you. Hey, Franklin, we're just getting started, really. So, a quick summary for you. I've basically set up the infrastructure to call to Vertex AI, and we're now hooking this up to the UI. And here's a question for everybody on the stream. Do you think that this will work, or what do you think will happen? So I'll give you a short moment to think about it. So what happens, let me refresh my preview here. So what happens when I click on the Summarise button? Will it work or will it not work? It seems like it will not work, but what is the problem with the environment? So tell me in the chat, and then we'll see what's the reason why we have this fatal error here. And I'm just going to have a sip of my tea. Okay, so let's take a look at what the crash reporter tells us. So it says, Sophia crashed due to fatal error in environment plus objects.swift in line 34. So this is not a file that I created. So this is part of the SwiftUI SDK. So let's see if there's anything that gives us more insight into what might be happening. And yeah, I was beginning to look at the long text here, but it seems like this here tells us what's going on. So no observable object of type summarizer service found. A view.environment object for summarizer service may be missing as an ancestor of this view. So this error message is still for the observable object API. We're using observation, but I think that the problem is that in our preview, we're not injecting the service. So let's quickly fix that. And it's a summarizer service dot shared. So let's see if this works. Yeah, this is great. So let's click on the button and see what happens. And there you go. So it apparently made a call and we get the lowercase. So that's great. Okay, so the next step is to actually call the Vertex AI SDK and ask the model to summarize this text for us. So let's go back into the documentation, and now we can actually import this. So that's the first step. And the next step is to initialize the Vertex AI object and then create a generative model instance, and then we can call a method on that. So let's do that. I'm just going to put it here, so like this. And then, so we initialize Vertex AI, we get our model, and now the next step is to construct the prompt. So we can do this, but we're not talking about magic backpacks, but please summarize the following text. That's good. And then we will call the model, and we can take the comment with us. Okay, so we have the prompt, but we also need to attach the text that we want to summarize. So plus input, right? So we have our instruction for the model, and then we add the text that we want to summarize. And now the problem is that this is async, but we are not in an async function. So we'll just fix this. Async. So this should be fine. And also it throws. Async throws. Okay, like this. Good. And then, of course, we need to replace this here and return response dot. So the response has a couple of fields in it, as you can see here. So it has a field called candidates, and that is an array that contains all the possible responses that the model comes back with. So sometimes when you go into Gemini on the web, you will see that it says, well, here's your answer, but you can click on this button here and I can give you a couple of alternatives. So that is what's happening here. We get several candidates and we can pick the one that we are most interested in, but most of the time you want to grab the first one, and instead of having to do what the code completion suggests here, getting the first candidate and doing nil coalescence, what we can do is just take text, and that will give us the text of the first candidate. And it needs to be unwrapped because it might be nil, right? So, and then instead of saying that, no summary is probably a good answer. No summary available. Sorry. Okay. Cool. For anyone who's joined the live stream, there is a poll in the live chat, so feel free to answer that. The question is, do you use AI in your app? And what I'm interested in is, do you use AI in this way where you implement a feature in your application, not so much as in do you use AI to build your application, as in, AI-assisted code completion and stuff like that. I actually am interested in, do you use any AI features in your application? And it might be anything that you do with text or images, or I don't know, maybe you're using AI to do image and video recognition or generating videos. I don't know, like maybe there is some amazing, exciting stuff that you built. So let us know. So let's see if this works. So let's go back to our notes editor and see what happens. So we get another compile error. So we need to call this using await, and probably also try await. And then, because this is not asynchronous, we will have to wrap it in a task. Okay. Let's refresh the preview. And here we go. Okay, so let's see. I mean, this is Latin, but it should still be able to summarize this. Nothing's happening. Oh, there you go. Oh, wow. This is really interesting. I never thought about what this Latin actually means. So apparently it means this text describes a scenario of hard work and eventual reward. It speaks of dedication, labore, and effort, proident, leading to accomplishment, consecutor, and joy, anim. While there may be challenges along the way, ultimately the focus is on overcoming them and achieving success. Well, did you know that? I didn't. That's, yeah, you live and learn. Amazing. So that apparently it did work, which is really great. So let's run the application and see what it does with our with the full text that we have in for our articles. So, and before I try this, let's take a look into the database. So here we are. Here is my backend project. I am in the Firestore data browser, and you can see that I've got my 3 documents here, so nobody else is using the application for now, but this is something that we'll get to. So I want to ship this application to the App Store, so we'll get to a place where we'll have more users. So, and this is the article that is about, let's see, where is the title? SwiftUI hero animations. Okay. And in addition to all this HTML that we see here, which we need to render it when we want to read the article, we have this full text field here. And this just contains the plain text. So if you remember, last time we implemented this metadata service, and the metadata service also downloads the plain text. And we've been using Swift Soup to do that, which is a really easy way to extract the plain text from a HTML page. Okay, so let's go and see what we get if we call the summarization feature. And boom. I expected this to happen, and it's the same error that we got before. And again, it says no observable object of type summarizer service found, a viewed or environment object for summarizer service may be missing as an ancestor of this view. And now the problem is this is on my abstract. So it's at the very root of my application, and it is, a bit hard to say, well, where exactly is this missing, right? So let's see if the stack trace helps us here. So on the left-hand side, I can see the entire stack trace of this crash. So at the root of that, we should see our main Here we are. And then we go into, this rabbit hole of stuff happening. And you can see that all of this is not our code. So it is really, 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 really difficult to tell where it is missing, right? And that is one of the reasons why I am not such a big fan of using the environment to pass stuff along. Let's see how we can fix it. So we know that we need it in the nodes editor. So let's work our way through. So first of all, we have the summarizer service. We pass it into the artifacts list screen. So let's go here. So, and then in the artifacts list screen, we have the list of all the artifacts. And we don't need it there. And we also don't need the summarizer service on the artifact list row view. So at one point, we have this navigation destination where we navigate to the artifact viewer. And you can see that instead of passing the summarizer service here, we're just passing the artifact store. So that is the place where we need to put this. So I'm just going to copy this over and paste it here. So no, obviously it doesn't know the summarizer service. So we'll have to make it known or fetch it from the environment here, right? So let's go here. And I'm just going to fetch it from the environment of the artifact list screen. So we are in the artifact viewer now. And let's see. So we need to pass it into the node editor, which we are not doing. So again, we need to fetch it from the environment here and then pass it down to the summarizer, to the nodes editor, .environment summarizer service. Okay, let's try it. And Stefan has joined. Hey, Stefan, how's it going? Okay, so this seems to work. Let's go. And now let's see if we can summarize this. And the text expresses excitement and pride in having written something. So the problem is that we're not running the summarizer on the full text of the artifact, but instead we're running the summarizer on what's in the nodes. So that means if we go into an empty node like this one, I'm curious what will happen. Please provide the text you would like me to summarize. Yep, that kind of makes sense. Okay, so let's see how we can make sure that we can pass the artifact text to our summarizer. So here we are in the nodes editor, and we call the summarizer service, and we pass in the node. So at this point, we probably want to access the full text of the artifact. Now, here is the artifact. So let's just use it. Full text. What is happening? Oh, it might be nil. Okay. Well, let's just nil coalesce like this. Okay, and let's try this again. Maybe this will work. Okay, here we go. Let's go here, and we already have a node. So let's try if this now uses the full text. Okay, so this article explains how to use SwiftUI's .task view modifier to implement delayed action, specifically marking an article as read after a 5-second delay. The author uses task.sleep4 method to create a timer that triggers the action after the specific delay. I think this is a good summary, but it's a bit lengthy, right? So first of all, Pat on the back, we did well. We got our summary using the Vertex AI SDK and Firebase, talking to the Gemini model, so that's great. But our prompt is not good enough. So let's see if we can improve our prompt in the remaining couple of minutes. So here we go. Here's our prompt. Please summarize the following text. And I'm going to show you something that hopefully works better. So let me first see where we are. Okay. Here we go. So here is Gemini. So I went to gemini.google.com and let's go into the gems manager. So gems are basically reusable prompts in the Gemini app. So and now I want to create a new gem. Let's see if this works. What? Hello? That's disappointing. Why can't I create a new one? Oh, create a gem with advanced. Let's see. Okay. Let me use a different account to do that. Okay, let's get a new window. And then let's go here. And I should probably do this off screen. Okay. Let me just double check I'm not leaking any information. It looks good. Okay. Okay, so I'll go into the gems manager, create a new gem, and then I will paste my prompt here. Please summarize the following text. Summarizer. Okay, and then I click this magic wand button here, and that will create a new, much better prompt for me. So this says, purpose and goals, provide concise and informative summaries of various texts, help users quickly grasp the main points of the text, and so on and so forth. So let's take that and go back into our application here, and then let system instructions, and then let's make this a multi-line string. Format this nicely. Okay, so consecutive statements. Oh yeah, of course. And then, you know what? I'll just call it prompt. And then at the end, can I do this? Plus, it's called input. Is it? Yep, input. Okay, nice. So this seems to work. Let's try this. Okay. Has this started? I'm not sure. Okay. Let's try again. Okay, I see the application booted up again. Okay, let's go here. Let's go here. And then I'm going to delete this. And then let's run this prompt and let's see what we get. Okay, so this is better, right? So it is shorter and more to the point. This article explains how to implement a delayed task using SwiftUI.task view modifier. Yeah, so this is a better summary because it is more concise, I think. Great. So, and let's see if this actually saved to the database. Go back here. This is, I think, this one here. So let's have a look at, where is it? We should have a note somewhere. There we go. So here is the note. So it saved it back to the database. Great. Okay, so with that, let's take a look at our poll. So I saw a bunch more people answering the post and the poll, sorry. So let's look at the results. So I can end the poll now. Here we go. Do you use AI in your apps? No, 83%. Yes, 16%. So I hope that hopefully after seeing how relatively easy it was to add this to our application, you might try this out yourself. And, oh wait, well, you can see it. I can see it as well. Okay, so let's take a look at, yeah, so maybe, you know, some more resources to look at. First of all, if you join the stream later, I would recommend having a look at this episode of Firebase After Hours number 7, where Noe and I implemented a space adventure using Gemini and Vertex AI in Firebase, and that was a real fun exercise. In addition to calling the model to, you know, generate a story for us, basically, using the chat interface, we also used tool calling so that whenever something happened in the game, we could play a sound that would, you know, fit to what's happening in the game. So, for example, because it's a space adventure, we had plenty of explosions and lasers, obviously, which was good fun. So that is definitely something that I would recommend. And also check out the Firebase Demo Day playlist, and specifically this video here where Morgan explains this in a little bit more detail what we did today. And with that, let me skip ahead to the outro. Oh yeah, Franklin says there should have been an option for not yet but want to. Yes, I agree. That should definitely be an option. All right, so we are at the end of today's stream, and I am trying to do this more regularly, and I thought Wednesday would be a good day. So let's try to meet again next Wednesday. And in addition to this summarization feature, we're going to look into chatting with the knowledge base. And so this goes a step further than just creating a summary of a single article. Now we need to look at the entire database. So in my database right now, we only have 3 documents, but let's just imagine that I had plenty of documents in there, and I wanted to run a question and answer session with my knowledge base and talk with it about everything that's in my knowledge base. So we're going to look at how to implement that using a technique called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, and I'm going to use Genkit, which is also a Firebase product that we released earlier this year. And after that, let's see how much time that takes. Maybe we need another session, but maybe there is something else. I'll just keep on doing this until the application is in the App Store and people can start using it. So I'd be more than happy for you to join me again next week and the week after. And then probably at one point, I'm going to take a break for Christmas. But after that, we'll start again. So Franklin asked, are we going to use LangChain? I mean, that's an option. So if people are interested in seeing how this would work with LangChain, we can definitely take a look at that. Genkit is similar to LangChain. LangChain, like Genkit, is an AI orchestration / integration framework that allows us to build stuff based on databases, large language models, and all sorts of other AI mechanisms in the backend. And LangChain is predominantly for Python and also has support for TypeScript / JavaScript. Genkit is predominantly for JavaScript / TypeScript and has support for Go. And I'm first going to show you how Genkit works, and then if there is enough interest, we can definitely take a look at LangChain. Yes, absolutely. If you have any other ideas, suggestions, and also if you found anything in my code that you feel like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, please leave a comment in the comments below the video. And with that, thanks for joining today. Enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully I will see you again next time. Bye, everyone.